So I was born in South Philadelphia in October of 1926. Unfortunately, my mother, who was 24 at the time, suffered from eclampsia, and as a result of that, had severe brain damage and was institutionalized the rest of her life. At age 15, I ran away and wound up in California picking fruit and spent almost a year doing that. Later, altered my birth certificate and enlisted in the Navy at age 16. I have a sister, half-sister. So when I got out of the Navy, I had to finish high school, which I did, and then eventually went to Penn State and graduated from there.
Well, I was born in North Philadelphia in 1934 at the very depths of the Great Depression, and my father went on strike. It seems like it was every year, so things were always tough. I have 2 older brothers, 1 younger brother, 2 younger sisters. Then after high school, I went to Misericordia School of Nursing, which we lived at the hospital, and we were basically slave labor, but I loved it. And it was while I was in nursing school that I met Frank.
And went to a dance in one of the parishes in Southwest Philadelphia and met Nancy, and we had a very good time that evening, except at the end she kind of blew me off. And it didn't matter because she was 19 and I was an old man of 27. We met about 6 or 8 months later at another dance, church dance, and I think at that time we again hit it off very well, and I kind of knew that I was going to do what I could do to get this girl to marry me. And eventually that's what happened. There I am standing there at the altar, and here comes this young woman down the aisle crying, and I'm saying to myself, uh-oh, she really doesn't want to do this. She must have found out the real me.
I was crying because I was nervous. I am an extremely shy person, and I was just nervous. It's the only reason I was crying. I had no doubts whatsoever.
Now she says it.
And we honeymooned in New York City. We started out going to all the famous and expensive places, and we finished up going to all the free museums, but it was all good. Do you have anything to say about the honeymoon? Except you were broke?
Yeah, I was broke. I had $100 to spend, including the hotel. I started working in the computer programming business and for the United States Navy Yard, and I wasn't too happy there eventually. So I went to work for RCA, knowing that in all probability we would be relocated. That was a tough decision because neither one of us really wanted to leave our families.
Anne-Marie was born in 1957 in Philadelphia, and before Peggy was born, Frank went ahead to Normal, Illinois, and I waited until Peggy was 6 weeks old, and then I also moved to Normal. And That was my first time away from the big city. We lived right in back of a cornfield. Frank was born in Normal, Illinois. And then Richard was born in Dayton. And John and Susan were both born in Detroit. And then we moved out to Livonia, Michigan, and we lived there for 20 years.
You know, you never really know sometimes. In my own observation about life, you don't know necessarily what you want until you get it. Then you realize that's what you wanted all along. And I kind of wanted a family life that was more conventional than the one that I had as a child, and we had that. We had 6 children, and I enjoyed it until they started breaking away, and that was sometimes painful, but part of life. And I like to think that, for the most part, that the children enjoyed it. Went out on lots of picnics, lots of swimming time at the lakes and whatever.
As far as my working outside the home, I worked until I was pregnant with Peggy, and then I quit work, and I didn't start again until Susan was 1 year old in Detroit, and I worked at Mount Carmel, and worked from then on part-time, including all the way to Naples, and then I retired here in Naples.
Things were up and down in Detroit for a while, but eventually, in 1976, we started that company, me and 3 other guys, and it had its ups and downs, but it was pretty successful. And we finally sold the company and made enough money to retire to Naples. We had been coming down here for about 10 years before that.
Then when I retired, I had been doing volunteer work even in Detroit, but I started getting more involved in Naples, which I love. Well, what about your volunteer work with Hope for Haiti?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I do volunteer, since you got to do something here when you're retired, other than I'm not a very good golfer. And I noticed that she neglected to mention about her criminal background.
You
So the first date, we went bowling. And we have never been bowling since.
Well, I was too vain to wear my glasses, so I basically couldn't even see the pins, let alone hit them.
But
We got along anyhow.
we got along. It was a good day.
But we didn't go bowling again.
No, never. That was our first date.
That was it? You just bowled and came home?
Well, we don't have to tell you everything we did, you know. It's a little discretion.
Pardon me, sir.